Hello, and welcome back to the Turn by Turn podcast. I'm Chris, and Daniel is not here. I'm flying solo today, but I'm excited to bring you another developer interview. Today, I am joined by Cole Brayfield, who made the game Walk with the Living, and I'm super excited to get into that because it looks like a game that is right up my alley. How are you today, Cole?
I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great because your game looks great.
I'm glad.
All right, so I guess we just start with tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I am. I've been kind of interested in game dev for a while, but I am primarily a writer, and I did my so kind of my background is that I kind of worked on some kind of like RPG maker kind of games in my undergrad, and then I did my master's in English and started writing more like fiction and other kind of genres, and then started making this game after graduating from my master's, and yeah, I really wanted to focus on storytelling in this game. So kind of my background is mostly as a writer.
I see. That's really interesting, and definitely a really important part of making an RPG. How do you feel like that helped you, like the whole English degree? How do you feel like that translated to gaming versus books?
Yeah, I'm really interested in more narrative focused games. So storytelling is always kind of the biggest thing that appeals to me and kind of the thing that I hope to really put into games. And I think games have, like specifically RPGs, have a really interesting way to convey stories, right? Like the way that they're able to use things like choice and being able to kind of have that interactive element kind of opens up a lot of different possibilities for what kinds of stories can be told in games. So
Yeah, that sounds really, really interesting. So to clue our audience in a little bit as to what the game looks like, when I first looked at it, I actually thought you built it on the Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem engine.
yeah, I'm obviously super inspired by Fire Emblem with this game. The first Fire Emblem games that I played, like a lot of kind of Western audiences, were the GBA ones. I started with Sacred Stones. But yeah, that's definitely a huge influence. Now I'm kind of a little more interested in some of the ones that never got localized, like Genealogy. And I'm also I love Radiant Dawn. That's probably my favorite in the franchise. So Fire Emblem is definitely a huge influence, but also kind of I was kind of influenced by games like Persona 2, even though it may not look like it. But I'm kind of other RPGs that really focus on storytelling were and kind of deep involved characters were other huge influences for me. So
Yeah, so the thing where I was going with that, with the story stuff as well, was on your Steam page. It says characters die permanently, but there are always more stories to be told. When a character dies, new narrative branches, relationships, and recruitments become available. Death isn't the end. So Fire Emblem obviously does the recruitments if deaths happen. But I'm really curious into new narrative branches and relationships because I don't know if I've seen that in an SRPG before.
yeah, so I felt like in a lot of ways Fire Emblem games tend to be pretty linear. Like they usually so Sacred Stones is like an example where there are kind of branching routes, right? And then Three Houses, obviously a big selling point is the branching routes. I guess Fates too. But I really wanted to be thinking about the ways in which like if we are going to have the permanent deaths of characters, how do those deaths really impact the other characters that are left? And I already was kind of thinking about the game with kind of themes of death and like really thinking about death. The main character is a skeleton. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna mention that. Like the main character seems to already be dead. So
yeah. So the main character has just been brought back from death. So yeah, I was kind of interested in that, and then having that theme, I was kind of, it made me feel kind of silly if I then had permanent deaths, but those permanent deaths weren't really like dramatically affecting the story. So yeah, that was something I really wanted to include, and I felt like was really important. So yeah, if a certain, especially main characters that die, kind of impact the way the story goes, but then also really any characters that die have kind of impacts on the relationships that they with the characters that are kind of left, right? So yeah, that was something I really wanted to think about and focus on, and not that that's never been done in Fire Emblem games. It definitely has been, but that was something I really wanted to make central to this. So I'm excited about that.
yeah, I think that's really unique and really interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the story. Do you want to kind of not spoil anything, but just kind of summarize where do we start and maybe talk about some of the characters?
Yeah. So really I was also really interested in telling like a smaller story. A lot of the Fire Emblem games really focus on like lords, right? Princes, princesses, like these big wars. And I wanted to tell a smaller story than that. So yeah, the story is it focuses on three kind of main characters. There's this swordswoman named Aoife. There's a necromancer named Kier, and the two of them decide to. Their village has just been attacked by this mercenary group led by a man named Odger, and they decide to raise this knight from the dead named Rowan, and the three of them kind of begin this journey to fight Odgar, but then also kind of think about whether they should fight Odgar, and kind of the thinking about kind of another theme I was really wanting to think about with the game was kind of a lot of the Fire Emblem games are really focused on kind of conflict and war, right? And there have definitely been themes in those games of nonviolence, and that was also something that I really wanted to think about, like because I'm someone that is really interested in nonviolence, so I really wanted to like, how do I make an SRPG while also considering how much violence that entails, right? We have all these kind of nameless people that have to get killed in an SRPG, or like there has to be these tactical battles, right? So that was also something I was thinking about, and something the characters are thinking about. So that's the main gist of the story, though.
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised to hear you say that after you say Radiant Dawn is one of your favorite Fire Emblem games, because I always said in our episodes about those, like, to me, Path of Radiance is like, what if the Lagoos were people? And then Radiant Dawn is, what if the people that you were killing this whole time were people?
Right. Yes, yeah. With Dain and the Dawn Brigade in Radiant Dawn, yeah, there are definitely those themes. And that was something else I wanted to, with making the main character someone who had already died, and this skeleton character, I really wanted to think about like, how does someone like that like go through the world? What would they be thinking? So that was something else that I was really interested in and kind of thinking about, especially with that character of Rowan.
So are there like secret characters to recruit?
Yeah, so there are a few. There's kind of a major route diversion early in the game, and that kind of leads to there are several characters that are kind of only available if some of your party dies. So they're kind of replacement characters, is a lot of times what they're called in Fire Emblem games. But I really wanted to make those characters more, I feel like some people kind of had negative reactions to those types of characters, because I think some people Obviously, there are kind of maybe two different ways to play Fire Emblem. I think a lot
Mhm.
of people will play like I'm not going to let anyone die, right? And then some people will play SRPGs allowing kind of this permanent death. So I wanted to. The game is open to be played either way, right? But for these people that want to play a more like maybe Iron Man experience where like you allow your characters to remain dead. I wanted to kind of have some narrative consequences there. But yeah, so there are some characters that actually important characters that show up only if other characters die. So
And I definitely would want to see all of them because the character art looks gorgeous. Like really some of the best the design is some of the best I've seen actually in an SRPG. They look really, really nice. Did you do the art or do you have help?
yeah, so I have luckily been able to work with like several great artists. So I was able to commission art, and yeah, those the portraits are gorgeous. I'm really appreciative of the artists, and also the pixel art. I worked with an artist named Raul, and also really gorgeous. I really loved the like animation work that he was able to give to some of the even like smaller characters. Like there's a cat that you can recruit, and I really love kind of the work that he did there. So yeah, I'm really proud of their work, and I'm just really thankful that I was able to work with them and that they were so willing to kind of go with my ideas and produce such high quality work.
Yeah, I think it was definitely worth it. In regards to getting some help, you said that your primary focus, you're a writer, you're an author, but you're making a game. How hard is that?
Uh, it is hard. So, like some of the other people that you have interviewed on the podcast so far, I actually used an engine called SRPG Studio to make this, which is kind of in the same vein as like an RPG maker. But I really wanted to uh, push the engine to do kind of the most that I felt like it could do, because I know that I'm not a programmer. I did not do a lot of programming for this. I kind of uh, dipped my toe in where I could, but I really wanted to make the narrative a focus. And that's really the great part of things like engines like RPG Maker or SRPG Studio, these engines that I think often kind of get derided, but I think allow for a more narrative focus or for people like me to be able to make games. So yeah, I am not a programmer. So I was just grateful that I was able to kind of use this engine to make what I wanted to make. So
hmm And like you said, I think that these RPG Studio, RPG Maker games do get kind of a bad rep. But and I've said on the show before, I used to be that way. That when I saw those, I was like, whatever. Like I didn't take it as seriously. But getting into this show and actually taking like deeper looks into these games, I'm like, it really doesn't matter. Like it really is a full fledged. All of the titles that we've had on the show really are full fledged games with tons of care put into them, tons of art and stuff. And there's some that people say, oh, this was done in RPG Maker or SRPG Maker. And I'm like, I had no idea. I thought, like I said, I thought this was built on like the Fire Emblem GBA engine. I didn't know that it was on anything else.
and I think that's awesome. And I think as more projects like continue, as more games are released like from these engines, because I think that's potentially happened a little bit with like RPG Maker. I think as people have kind of produced more different and more unique kind of products from these engines, I think they've begun to get different. People have started to have different perspectives of them. So I'm happy about that. That's something I'm excited for.
It's something I've become very excited for.
Yeah.
I see that your game is free to play, and I do think it is the first one we've had that is. So, what are your kind of your goals with that, and what made you make it free?
Yeah, I really wanted to. So this is, like I said, I released. This is really my second full game that I've made. I released a project, like I said, kind of early in my undergrad, with RPG Maker. But this is like the first project that is that I feel like really represents me as kind of an adult writer and artist. So I wanted to, one, it was definitely a consideration of wanting to kind of dip my toe in a little bit slowly, like not jump right into a commercial project. But more importantly, I just wanted to make it as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. I just want as many people to experience the game as possibly can. And I'm excited for the fact that it's free. The other thing is that I'm thankful that I have a day job. I'm actually an English teacher, so I'm a high school English teacher, and so I don't. I'm grateful that I don't need a commercial project. I don't. This was kind of more of a hobby project for me. That I was working on kind of in between my day job. So yeah, I'm grateful and thankful that I didn't need it to be a commercial release, that I was able to release it for free, and that way hopefully as many people as possible can play it.
Yeah, I really like that. And so definitely all of you out there, it's free. I mean, you have no reason to not at least give it a shot. There was one other thing I wanted to ask about. What are your future plans with the project? Or is it finished?
Yeah. So the project is finished and released. Just released on Steam on January 21st. So definitely, if you're listening to this, go play it. It's free. It's available. As far as future plans, I would like to work on a sequel. I'm already kind of working with artists and kind of making plans for that. As maybe a teaser of that, I am hoping to have some characters come back and kind of make it a few years later. So I kind of like that idea. That's something that I feel like I've been talking about Fire Emblem a lot, but
That's okay.
that's a fun thing that my favorite of the Fire Emblem games have done. That's something that like Genealogy does, right? That's something that Radiant Dawn does, and that's something that Three Houses does. So I think it's always fun to kind of revisit characters a little bit later, and then you kind of get that you're already invested in those characters, but then you also can kind of see how they've grown since the events of the last game. So those are kind of my future plans.
All right. And how long would you say the game takes to complete?
Yeah, so an average run is about 8 to 9 hours. The number of chapters is between 10 and 11. And the chapters tend to go, like I said, paced a little bit faster with everything happening on the map.
Well, I think that sounds pretty good for a small SRPG with a really interesting story that you're supposed to want to play multiple times. I think that's a pretty good length.
Yeah, that was something also I was really interested in. So I really hope people will replay the project, because I've really designed it with the multiple routes, with so many different kind of choices that impact the characters in different ways. I'm really hoping that people will replay it. And there's also a new game plus where you can kind of carry over equipment and that kind of thing. So definitely I would encourage people to, once you've finished it once, give it another go.
The new game plus and carrying over stuff is really nice and not something you see very often in the genre.
Yeah, I really wanted to, for me as a player, sometimes obviously it's great to go back and replay for story, like getting to see those story moments that you didn't get to see the first time, right? But I also wanted to make it kind of, as you're playing the first time, you might be collecting equipment with the knowledge potentially that you can then use that in your second playthrough. So yeah, I really wanted there to be like kind of mechanical reasons for wanting to play again as well.
I think it also could add another layer of depth and thinking about things. That's like, oh, I got a really powerful axe, but I don't have anybody that can really use that. And then it's like, well, in the next run, gives you a reason to hang on to it and be excited about it anyway.
Yeah. Well, and another thing, so a design decision that I made in the game was inventories are kind of limited, right? So their characters can carry like 3 items, but weapons have unlimited uses. So that was another thing too, is that once you kind of get equipment, you can kind of hang on to that. So that's another consideration with the new game plus, is that when you carry that equipment back over, you might be starting the game again with suddenly equipment that really changes maybe the way that you play or your perspective on certain battles. At least that was my goal, and that's kind of what I found in testing. But yeah, I've also tried to, with that, I've tried to make, because I don't have equipment with or like weapons with a number of uses, I've tried to design weapons in a way that you could end up using like steel weapons throughout the game, because they might be kind of the most balanced weapon, but maybe stronger weapons are a little less balanced, right? So I've tried to make some interesting decisions for players on what kinds of equipment they want to use.
Yeah, I keep getting distracted because I've got your Steam thing open in the background, and I just have to point out, like, I'm a writer too, but man, these are the most English teacher names for characters. The girl with white hair, can you say her name one more time for me?
Yeah, Aoife. It's
All right,
like
y'all would not believe how this is spelled. Aoife, and it's Aoife.
yeah. So a lot of the names are kind of Irish and Irish names tend to have, especially for like modern English audiences that don't have a lot of, I guess, specifically US, because I'm US based, but I think they're super weird for us, right? Because I think
Yes.
there are some like vowels and things in there that do very different things. So yeah, that was because of kind of the different nations in the world of the game. Kind of the main one that you are that most of the action takes place in is Estia, and it's kind of inspired by Irish mythology. And so I really wanted to kind of bring in those. I also think for Western audiences, for a US audience, those names will maybe be a little bit more interesting and memorable. So,
Oh, for sure. I feel like I learned how to read playing Pokemon, and I feel like I'm learning to read again.
yes, yes, I feel that.
But that's cool. Like, I'll definitely like I'll think about that more. And there's vowel ways to play with vowels that I don't normally think about. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, well, and I think that's also maybe an influence from Fire Emblem 2, that I feel like so many Fire Emblem names you just you're kind of guessing at, especially when you're like a younger, when you're like a kid playing these games, you're like, I don't really know how to say that name, but
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna say it my way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some that I will not even admit to, that that
Right.
was like, I had these such weird versions of characters' names that when I looked back on it as an adult, I was like, oh, no, that's like a very common name. I don't know why I struggled so much.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, do you have anything else that the audience just has to know about Walk with the Living?
I think we've covered a lot. I just hope that folks are excited by it. Again, it is free, so go out, give it a try, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what people think of it. So,
Me too. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on it. I'm definitely going to try this one. It's definitely not a big time investment, and it's free. So that's Walk with the Living, and you definitely should give that a shot. And if nothing else, just open it on Steam and look at some of this art, and you'll be like, yeah, I get why I would want to try that. As I say that, it cycles to the next screenshot, and there's a guy whose name is Art.
Yeah.
Perfect. If people want to follow you in your creating and your different passion projects, where can they find you? How can
Yeah.
they support you best?
Yeah, so my website is my last name, Brayfield, Brayfield, writing.com. So I definitely follow me there, kind of maybe check out some of my other writing if you're interested, but that's the best way to kind of follow what I'm doing.
You say check out some of your other writing. I have no problem if you want to like shill a book or something. Do you want to shill anything else?
So I have some kind of short stories and essays coming out later this spring, but not any books, not any big things. So yeah, they'll be on my website. So definitely check there. But this is kind of my big project coming out right now. The thing that I'm kind of most excited about. So.
All right. Well, that's still cool. If people really like the game and really like your writing, then it's good to know that there's more coming.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I am not stopping anytime soon. So yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciated this chance to chat with you.
Oh, thanks for coming on. It's been great. And of course, I'll ask if you have a student listen to this, do you want to tell them anything?
Uh, if my students find this, they will probably be just laughing. I teach mostly freshmen, so they're 14. They've got lots going on. But if any of you are listening, let me know at school next day.
All right, let me end the episode real quick, and then off air we can talk Godzilla a little bit more if you want to. So
Perfect.
thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Turn by Turn. It is awesome to be hanging out again with Cole and talking about Walk with the Living. Definitely go check it out and check us out. You can find us wherever podcasts are put up. You obviously found us to be listening to this. So I'm glad you did. And I hope you'll listen to another episode. But you can find us on YouTube as well, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Twitter. And I need to go find our Twitter because I always forget what it is. It is at Turn by Turn Pod. So definitely follow us there to keep up with all the things that Daniel and I are up to. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.